Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. We are so happy to be joined by a special guest, Josh Hammer, back in studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Daily Wire. Thank you so much for being here. Glenn, what was the top story for you?
Top story for me is the effect of socialism on cities in America that are already starting to collapse, and nobody seems to notice.
All right, Stu.
We thought it was coming about 100,000 times, but we believe Joe Cella is tomorrow. The
Get out of
announcement
here.
of Joe Biden.
Joe Cella. All right, well, we'll see. Josh.
Yeah, so Ilhan Omar does it again. She does it again this week. A recently uncovered tweet about obtuse moral relativism, to put it mildly, about Black Hawk Down, blaming American soldiers for taking Somali lives. Just totally abhorrent. So she does it again.
A lot to get into there. It's almost as if she doesn't actually love America.
It's almost like that.
But we'll get into that. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So we here at Blaze TV are really thankful for Relief Factor because it makes Glenn tolerable to work with.
That's so sad, isn't it?
Really, though, when you're in pain, it affects every single part of your life.
Absolutely everything.
Yes.
Pat used to be really, really fun to hang out with.
He is. He just, he's also in the middle of laughing. He just grimaces.
He just like is an excruciating pain. We both go to the same pain doctor and the same back doctor, and the pain doctor is like, I don't know how that guy even walks. I'm like, wow, you see bad stuff too. I have gotten out of pain. A lot of my pain has been relieved by Relief Factor. The day-to-day stuff that I just couldn't take it anymore. And Relief Factor helped me. It reduces the inflammation. It is all it's all natural, done by doctors. They know what they're doing. And it has 4 key ingredients, and all it does is just help your body fight the inflammation, and that's really what causes our pain and so many other problems in our body. So try it for 3 weeks. If it doesn't work, you're out $20, but if it does work, you have your life back. And 70% of the people who try it, it works, and they go on to order more month after month. It's Relief Factor, relieffactor.com.
Glenn, you said socialism is already collapsing cities here in the United States. No one's listening.
I mean, we don't necessarily say, oh, San Francisco, it's a socialist city. We just say it's San Francisco. And we all know, okay, it's San Francisco. I grew up in Seattle, in the Seattle area. Seattle is one of the most beautiful cities in America. So is San Francisco, but it's San Francisco. Yeah. Seattle has taken this mad Marxist left, and it is just devouring itself. And there's a very brave documentary that was put on television by KOMO-TV. It was a local documentary called Seattle is Dying. And I watched it. A friend of mine in Seattle sent it to me and said, you've got to watch this documentary. This is crazy, Glenn, what's going on up here. I had no idea how bad it was. And I'm watching it, seeing a city that I loved, and I know the street corners that they're on, and I'm like, that used to be the nicest street corner. Oh, it still is the nicest street corner? And that's what's happening? We tried to get the people on, and they wouldn't come on. The documentary filmmakers didn't want to come on. I don't know why, but I assume it's because it took enough bravery to go on television in Seattle and say, this doesn't work. They don't need to rub salt in the wounds by going nationally and say that. What's happening there is a hostile takeover by Marxist radicals. If you want to see what America will be like, the beginnings of first term of a socialist Democrat in the Oval Office, if you want to see what it'll be like, look to Seattle. You want to see how the government will respond to you, look to Seattle. Let me play 2 clips for you. This one is first, where these constituents go to the Seattle City Council and they're saying, look, we have drugs on our streets, our children are not safe, our houses are being broken into, we can't do business here anymore. You got to help us. I want you to watch the response of the council. Watch what they say and do.
Will you manage these camps, and will you enforce the law?
There has evolved a profound disconnect, and rarely has it been more vividly laid out than in this exchange.
If property crime is committed, violence is committed, you need to call 911 and the police.
You've lost all credibility when you say You said 2 words. You said call 911. Do you understand that the police have told us to vote you all out so that they can do their jobs? And you're telling us to call 911? You're smiling. You think it's funny? You think it's funny the way we're living?
The police are quitting. The police officers are walking off the job saying, I can't do it anymore. This doesn't make sense. What they want us to do is not police. And this documentary, because it's made in such a progressive area, I thought it was really remarkable. Did you notice this tone when you watched it? How they kept expressing, this is not compassion. Because they're talking to these bleeding heart progressives and these Marxists who are not connected to reality, that are all saying, but we have to do the right thing. We have to care about people. And so this documentary, all the way through it, keeps saying, this is not something that is good for people. This is not helping people on the street. But they ignore the people who actually are paying the taxes and are living there. They only seem to care about the people that are living on the streets. And they are taking advantage of the system because there is no law anymore that they enforce. I want you to watch one more exchange with the city council. If you think that was an isolated incident, watch how the Seattle City Council completely dismisses this man and rubs his face in his smallness. Watch.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Before you start the clock, could you stop it for a second? It's real discouraging to come up here and see all the heads down. It's like, you know.
Sir, you're on a 2-minute timer here, so let's go. You're on a 2-minute timer.
Could you start it over, please?
No, we're not going to. Just go ahead.
So it was unreasonable for you to ask that people look up and give me their attention?
Sir, you have 2 minutes. We're all looking at you. You have 2 minutes. Now you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Last week, you limited speakers because of the number of speakers to 1 minute each, but you allowed Pramila Jayapal to speak as long as she wanted to. It was 4 or 5 minutes. And it reminded me of George Orwell's famous saying from Animal Farm about how all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel like I'm being treated now, just because I was kind of asking for your attention. Like, I immediately got a hostile response back from you. I don't understand that. So you don't ever respond to citizens, or what's...
I do, sir, but you have 2 minutes for public comment to the agenda items.
That woman's
well, it's all on tape, and I think it's a pretty sad commentary. That you think that asking for you guys to look up off of your computers and give attention during this short period of time was an unreasonable thing. I really feel bad about that.
Thank you.
Now listen to that guy. He's not a troublemaker. He's just saying, can you guys show some humanity here? This is what happens. If a business was run like Seattle is being run, if we talked to a guy today who runs a cemetery, drugs, people living in the cemetery, selling drugs, prostitution in the cemetery, cost him $200,000 last year just to repair and keep this cemetery, okay. The city will do nothing about it. Nothing. They won't arrest. They won't do anything about it. Now, if you had a business that was supposed to protect this cemetery, this sacred spot, and they didn't do it, you would have the ability to go to the press, and the press would expose that company as being lousy. Here, you can't go to the press because they're in on it. You can't go to the police because they can't do anything about it. And your last stop is the government, and that's the way they treat you. That is socialism. That is what's coming if America doesn't wake up.
It's, the documentary is really worth your time because it's really just foreshadowing what every other city in America is about to be going through if we keep going down this road.
Well, can I just interject for a second? Here in Dallas County, we just talked about this the other day. We're now not prosecuting people for theft of less than $750.
Incredible.
It's the same thing.
Did you hear the governor on my show?
Yeah.
He was pissed.
Yeah.
He was pissed.
And it's amazing because it's sort of like the reverse of like a Giuliani approach, right? Where Giuliani went in and like, hey, let's get rid of these like pesky crimes that annoy people every day.
Broken windows theory.
Yeah, the broken windows theory. They're actually doing the opposite here. They're just like, well, for our so we can have our social justice points with our friends, we'll go out there and let everyone do whatever they want. They're not letting the police enforce the law. There's a story in there about a guy who was out in front of the courthouse selling methamphetamine. He gets arrested, and he goes to jail, and they find out he's got a prior kidnapping, and also was the only suspect in a brutal rape of a woman earlier on in his life. They let him out, not even to hold him for 24 hours. And what he did is he went to a retirement home and raped a 71-year-old woman nearly to death. And she was, all sorts of horrible things happened to her. And like, this is very much, that's the worst case scenario, but it's very much run of the mill that these things happen. They get released all the time. They have records of people who've been, arrested 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 times for the same types of things. And they just get released back onto the street. And I think you're right, Glenn. The biggest point in the whole thing was this is not how is this a compassionate side to allow people to live like this?
The guy who is in one scene, he's in a trash can. He's clearly out of his mind.
It legitimately looks like a Reno 911 like thing. It's like it looks like comedy almost, but it's not.
And they spend so much time trying to coax him out of the trash can, and he's biting them and spitting on them,
biting himself.
It's crazy, okay? They spend all this time to get this guy out. He's done it before, and he's taken in, and they immediately release him. He goes back on the streets. He's now he's like a meth user. He's now stealing, and they have him on tape, proud of stealing. He's like, yeah, this is great, and I've been arrested. How many times did he say? I've been arrested over and over and again in Seattle, and I broke them. I now have broken the system. They don't dare arrest me. Yeah, I'm stealing now. No big deal.
Josh, last word.
It wasn't just in Portland like last month that Andy Ngo from Twitter had like all those videos of like Antifa taking over downtown traffic and the police were just nowhere to be. It was just in Portland, right? So something's going on there in the Pacific Northwest. I've actually never even been to Oregon or Washington State, so I can't tell you what's in the water personally, but something's clearly going on up there. But it seems to me, and Stu's talking about compassion, how like the compassion crowd oftentimes gets the exact opposite of what they intend. I kind of analogize that to immigration, right? I mean, we have an unprecedented crisis at our southern border right now. The numbers are astronomical. CBP just this week said that in the Rio Grande Valley sector, most traffic sector, we've already had more apprehensions in fiscal year 2019 to the first 7 months than the entire fiscal year 2018. Like it's unprecedented. We are in uncharted waters right now. But the compassion crowd, the people who are trying to get catch and release, who are trying to eliminate these detention centers, who are trying to tell everyone from the Northern Triangle of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras to come on up, what they're doing is they're aiding and abetting these anti-compassionate human trafficking rings, the cartels. They're inciting violence along the border. So the Amnesty Open Borders crowd is a great example, I think, of how this compassion mindset oftentimes leads to the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. So true. Before we jump back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Home Title Lock. So until I heard about them from Glenn and Stu, I had no idea home title fraud was like a thing.
I had no idea.
Yeah, one of the fastest growing crimes in America.
It's insane.
Which is insane.
And what's crazy is when I met with the FBI guy, and I'm like, yeah, but my house, and he's like, oh no, he knew everything about my house, and he's like, no. What you did to make it safer has actually made it easier for them.
Good.
And I'm like, wait, what? I mean, it's crazy how easy it is to steal somebody's title.
So they can literally they log online and they can forfeit?
No, we're not going
to. Let's walk you through the entire process.
I'm not going to give them a step-by-step.
It's really only 3 steps. It really is only 3 steps. It's like
a counterfeit deed, I guess.
It's a real deed. It's the real deal. It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
And it's certainly not the local government is going to catch it for you, right? Like it's a false, notary. I mean, it's really easy to do. They actually did it to us, basically. People at home, like, hey, we could file these right now and we'd own your home. And
For $40. We're like, wait, what?
I always tell them that, like, if this business doesn't work out, just go into stealing homes. It's going to work out.
Well, they're the only ones.
That's a good fallback career.
They're the only ones. There's this one central depository of, or is it repository, of all of the titles in the country. And so it goes in and out, and they're the only ones positioned right at that choke point. So if you're on their list, they see your title going through, they're the only ones really that can stop it right at the source.
Yeah. You can go to HometitleLock.com right now. Get a $100 search for free when you sign up, so you can find out if you've already been compromised. You wouldn't know it unless you go to HometitleLock.com and get that $100 search for free. Stu, you said Joe Cella.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure that's what they're calling it.
Well, but you said he's announcing?
He is. Well, we don't know for sure, of course.
Because we've been told this before.
This has been reported on and off about 55 times. But ABC News today confirmed it that tomorrow he's going to announce his campaign in a video, which we're pre-announcing videos. And then the Monday they're going to do his first sort of campaign event. In, I think it's Pennsylvania. He enters the race as the front runner, I think, for sure. Though, this could also be the peak of his campaign, right? Like, I mean, this does tend to happen that way. Everyone likes the backup quarterback. So here he is. Once he gets into the game, who knows how this is going to work.
I would be fascinated to hear your take on how Joe's going to fare.
So I think that Joe Biden is going to peak tomorrow and it's all downhill from there.
Really?
That's a camp that I'm in. I think that Joe Biden is too moderate for today's Democratic Party, which is pretty crazy because Joe Biden is not a particularly moderate figure.
No, it's not at all.
I mean, all you need to do is go back to the YouTube clips of him during the Robert Bork Supreme Court hearings when he was tag teaming with Ted Kennedy to do the most vile personal attack in probably the history of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. But Joe Biden, if you look at it, he's had some of his rhetorical stances and some of his substantive stances alike on things like race, crime. He used to be kind of a tough on crime kind of guy. It was part of his kind of blue collar appeal was he was there to protect the people from the criminals. But that's verboten in today's Democratic Party that is obsessed with these prosecutors like we were just talking about in Dallas County that are just not prosecuting the low level offenders. So I think Joe Biden is too moderate, honestly, maybe too white, too old. The Obama coalition, I think is probably going to go a little more to Kamala Harris. I think the intersectionality people will flock there if I had to predict. So I don't think Biden's going to last, to be honest with you. I could be wrong, but I don't see it.
I mean, it's going to be interesting because I think the things it's the things that people leak against you in a primary are the things you put in your own commercials in the general. And it's like if Biden can get through this, so that's going to help him. Like when he's talking about being tough on crime, he's going to be able to legitimately go back and point to certain things that are going to make him seem more moderate. And I think he is signaling that he's going to try to run as a progressive in the actual in the primary, which I don't know if that's going to work.
8% of progressives support him.
8%. Well, that was
8%.
Yeah. But again, he is leading every poll pretty much. So he does lead it. It's an enviable place to be if you're entering a campaign like this. And also, he's there. And kind of the opposite of this is Pete Buttigieg, who comes in with no fanfare whatsoever, is in dead last place, so you'd expect the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and now is really in like third place in a lot of these polls, third or fourth in that range. And it's interesting that this story came out today, and I don't know if Mayor Pete believes this, but he's not going to just get this nomination handed to him. Like they're not going to just like walk him into the aisle and hey, name your VP. That's not how this is going to go. They're going to be critical of this guy. They just didn't expect him to make any noise, so they didn't have anything prepared. They've now said that they're going through and they're about done with all the opposition research. There's a new report out going through. They've gone through all of his hirings and firings. They've gone through all of his public statements, all of his local interviews. I mean, they are really going to the wall because this guy's a legitimate threat. He has not really announced any policies at all, intentionally. And the only thing he's kind of done has been mildly critical of Sanders. So the belief is maybe he's trying to walk in between a Biden and a Sanders. I mean, it's a tough strategy, and it'll be interesting to see because we've seen this before with Herman Cain, with Fred Thompson, with Carly Fiorina, with so many of these candidates. They have their little run. They have this little boost, the moment. Is this just a moment, or is it something longer lasting? I mean, we'll probably know within about a month or so. If he's still hanging around in a month or two, I mean, you probably start taking this thing seriously.
I do think also with Biden, it'll be interesting to see the two different factions, right? Because you've got the socialist faction and then you've got the moderate,
right?
You can call it that. And I don't know. It's the old establishment and then the new, the new wing of the party trying to rise up. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that will be very indicative of who is going to control that party, from now forward.
Let's say Barack Obama, not in policy, just in name, changes to a Republican, and Donald Trump dies, and everybody dies, and they're like, we got to have somebody, and it's Barack Obama is going to be the replacement for Donald Trump, and he's running. Is there anyone on the Democratic field today that is currently running that you would go, well, I mean, it's Barack Obama, this individual, I don't think we're going to be fully socialist by the end of 4 years. Is there anyone on the field today that you don't think will take us down a radical road?
I mean, Biden's the only one who's even close, right? I mean,
and that's a sad state of affairs, right? Because that's a sad state of affairs to say Biden would be the only one that's close, because he's not moderate, but he is by today's standards.
When he ran with Obama, they were 1-2 as far as the most liberal senators in the Senate. I mean, I don't remember what order the order was, but they were 1-2. This is not a guy who's a moderate, and I don't. It's interesting. He's being portrayed as this person who's going to run as a moderate, and I think that's how the other leftists are going to try to portray him. I don't think he's going to portray himself that way. I think he's going to try to say, I mean, he said it already, I'm the most progressive guy running. I mean, I'm not running. He had that moment.
He went out, remember, Barack Obama only said he was for gay marriage because Joe Biden came out and said, oh, by the way, I'm all in.
That's a great point.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
But what about Biden? I mean, Biden historically called himself personally pro-life. It's the old Mario Cuomo shtick, right? I mean, probably this kind of like blue-collar Catholic thing that Biden was trying to do in the Rust Belt. But how is that going to play in today's Democratic Party?
It doesn't feel like it does.
It doesn't, right?
I think so. All right, back in a minute.
It just doesn't seem like it would work.
I mean, the leftist activists are more
A few weeks ago, I tweeted out a joke about a ridiculous wooden fork I got at the mall while out with my family. I said I was just given a crappy wooden fork to eat chicken with, and I want to tell you it really is. It's terribly crappy. And I want to remind everyone, this is the stupid future AOC wants for us, of course, referring to the Green New Deal. Today, that tweet was resurrected by a Salon.com writer who, of course, alerted all of her rabid climate change catastrophists who immediately attacked me. Some people told me to try stabbing myself with the fork. Some insulted my manicure as if it would be insulting to point out that busy working mothers don't always have time to go to the nail salon. Others called me the C word, but they didn't stop there. One of these cult members, whose name I do know, but I won't share on air, took the time and energy to find my personal private email address and other personal information about me and send me the following emails. One of them, if you want to tweet out nonsense, keep doing it. We'll roast the F out of you all day, dumb A white girl posing when she just a basic white girl. Great grammar. The next email, he uses my legal last name, which he clearly went to great lengths to find. It says, who's Sarah? And it lists my legal name. Or do you have a fake last name to sound less white? Now, this is a name I do not use publicly in order to keep my family life separate and protected from my public life and career. He then tweeted out my legal last name as a means to dox and intimidate me. Well, tough guy, allow me to answer you publicly, where the whole world can hear, because I'm not a cowardly little man who hides behind a fake email address, sending threatening emails to women with whom I disagree. Not that it matters to anyone other than you and the rest of the rabid left foaming at the mouth for some sort of intersectionality war, but my maiden name is Gonzales. I was born Sara Gonzales. One of my grandparents came from Spain, the other from Mexico, and I'm terribly sorry if my skin isn't brown enough for you. And this is the exact reason I use my maiden name, because cultists like you will go to any length possible to silence those who do not think as you do, who do not do as you do, who are not sheep parroting the same tired talking points from the left. And if you think for 1 second you're going to intimidate me into shutting up, you are dead wrong. People like you are the reason I do what I do. You are the reason that I work tirelessly to remind people of truth and facts and history, by the way, all of which are on my side. So you can continue stalking me and violating my privacy if you'd like, but I'd like to remind you that I live in Texas and we carry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in overtime.
Very good. Good job.
That was awesome. And I want to rant like that on wooden forks.
I mean, I'd like to.